Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, to hear directly from the candidates their views on issues that are important to our community. This is all leading up to our election, which is in June this year, June 23rd. So as you've noticed, things are a little different this year as we are social distancing. So we're conducting our interviews from different locations. We took questions this year from our social media, and we took them by email. So we have a lot of interesting stuff to get into. So let's jump right into it. Today's guest is Kyle Thompson, and he is a candidate for Frankfort City Commission. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time to schedule an interview with us. So I thought maybe we just start out by you telling us a little bit about yourself and why you have chosen to run for City Commission.
Sure. I am born and raised Frankfort kid. I graduated from Franklin County High School, started practicing my law here about 20 years ago, and have been a small business owner throughout that time period. I have 3 children that are everything to me. I do everything to make sure that they are provided for and that they have great lives, and they are my whole world at this point. And currently, I am the Chief Operations Officer for Capital Court Authority, which is a private probation company here in Frankfort. We handle all the drug screening and home incarceration and things of that nature for the Franklin County court system. The reason that I wanted to run for City Commission is that I had seen over the last few years that there was a need for some fiscal responsibility with regard to the city and the decision making that needed to be made. And I felt that I could bring that to the City Commission, and that was my goal in running for this particular position.
Okay. Well, you've talked about your experience. So how do you feel like this experience has prepared you to have a place on the City Commission?
Well, being a small business owner is hard. It is difficult. But being a small business owner allows for one to know the economic impact of your decisions. And those decisions have to be made with a budget in mind, with consequences of those budget decisions. And I believe that someone with a business background that I have, along with my deep roots in the community, have prepared me to make some hard decisions when it comes to the economics of city-run government. Okay.
So what do you see as the biggest issue that's facing the City Commission right now, and how would you deal with it?
The biggest issue that the city has as a whole, and what the City Commission will be dealing with over the next few years, is economic development. By far the biggest issue is economic development. We have a downturn in the economy, not just in Frankfort, where we have stagnant growth over the last 30 to 40 years, but we have a significant downturn in the economy just in the last 4 months that's going to take some time to recover from. So we need to sincerely work towards building up our small businesses, our entrepreneurs, our economic impact zones. We need to talk about providing tax benefits to companies to come in and open up here in Frankfort. And we need to provide the amenities that these companies need, that they want and need for their employees to come into our city and want to live in our city. And we don't have those amenities right now. So economic development is providing not only the business opportunities, but everything that those employees will need to live a good life here in our city.
Well, obviously things are going to be affected by COVID-19. Frankfort, as you know, every city right now is going to be facing an economic crisis due to COVID-19. So if elected, what ideas do you have that could deal with this crisis that we're all facing?
Well, first and foremost, I think government has to get out of the way when it comes to helping small businesses. We need to be welcoming when it comes to helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. So what we need is people in local city government and city staff that are willing to assist people in becoming small business owners and getting the licensure and the certifications that they need to become business owners. What we don't need is we don't need to be an impediment to individuals who are wanting to start businesses or bring business to Frankfort. And I think in my experience, Frankfort has been a little bit of a bastion of hard knocks for companies that want to come in and build a small business or a business here in Frankfort, and it hasn't always been easy. So we've lost companies because of that. We've lost opportunities with regard to companies coming in, and I think we really need to focus on government getting out of the way and assisting folks in doing that. In addition to that, I would like to see the introduction of economic impact zones for underdeveloped and undeveloped locations to provide tax benefits to individuals to take on some of our dilapidated and empty buildings in downtown that need to be revitalized. Give people a reason to want to build back those areas that once were so beautiful in downtown. And sometimes all it takes is one small business to really change the entire look of a particular impact zone. So I think with parcels B and C and what's going to be happening in downtown over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be important that we have goals set up for businesses to come into that area. And my hope is that we will be business focused as opposed to revenue focused, which seems government tends to be a little bit too much sometimes and misses the fact that you need the businesses to get the revenue. So I hope that we can remain focused on gaining new business.
Well, are there any other like changes in policy that you would support to make Frankfort more business friendly?
Well, I think there's a couple of issues that have been a burden in the past for local individuals wanting to become business owners, and part of that is the local taxation of businesses. I mean, we have a high tax rate. I don't necessarily think we need to increase taxes. I think we have a lot of restrictions on what you can do to buildings in the downtown historic area, which are there for a reason. But I think we need to not limit the ability of people to perhaps revitalize those areas by not having such restrictive guidelines on those particular buildings. If people are willing to invest their money in those buildings, let's not lose a whole business because the fascia of a building isn't exactly the way it was in 1886. I mean, let's have some modernity to our business sense, as well as trying to preserve our historic nature as well. And I think you can balance that. And I think many times in Frankfort's history, we have not balanced that very well. And in turn, we have sided with the idea of protecting the past while not providing for the future. And I think that's where we really need to focus, because we're at a time right now where our city has not grown at all for 40 years. All of the cities around us, Shelbyville, Georgetown, Versailles, they have all grown at exponentially greater rates than we have. We have less than a 1% growth in 40 years. That's unheard of. You don't have towns that are dying, and that's what we are at this point. So we need to be looking to the future. We need to be looking towards how can we provide opportunities for people to come in and have jobs in our community that will bring people in, that'll bring new housing developments in, that'll bring new blood into our community, and that's what we really need to focus on. Without that, we lose the ability to have the best schools and the best law enforcement and the best judicial programs. If you don't have the tax base coming into your community, then you lose out on that, and you lose the ability to provide those amenities to individuals. You can't have the best park system if you don't have people here to provide those for. So it's important that our city grows, and there is a section of our town that would like to see Frankfort remain the same size and same citizen count that it's been for 40, 50 years. And that's just not healthy for a city. And so I think it's important that we focus on growth in the next few years.
Well, this was a big issue 2 years ago in the city commission election. And candidates, they all commented on the stagnant population growth in Franklin County, and that Frankfort needs a positive change to spur growth. Do you feel like the current city commission has made a positive impact in moving Frankfort in that direction? And what would you have done differently?
I do think they have taken the bulls by the horn with regard to what was dealt to them with regard to parcels B and C and losing the Civic Center. Let me first say, I hate the fact that we don't have the Civic Center any longer. I understand the economic reality of why we couldn't have the Civic Center. I understand that there was significant investments that would have had to have gone in to save the Civic Center. I understand that, but it doesn't change the fact that losing the Civic Center was a problem for our downtown area. It's a problem for our community. I have a daughter who just graduated high school, and even with all the COVID things that are going on, she missed out on a lot of events that normally would have occurred at the convention center that we don't have. Losing the convention center, we have to decide what we're going to do with that area. What they have decided and started the process with parcels B and C is important, because that is going to be the groundwork for the economic resurgence of downtown Frankfort. Without a good plan in place, and I believe they have a good plan started, without that good plan in place, we would not be moving towards any positive change that I think is necessary. Would I've done everything exactly the way they have done it? Maybe not, but I will tell you that what they have done has been positive. I think there's still a lot of decisions that need to be made. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and the issues with parcel B and C and the TIF that is going to go along with that, and all the tax credits, that's going to be decisions that are going to be a decade in the making. So it's going to take not just the next city commission, but the ones beyond that, to make sure that things are in place so that 10 years from now, we have something in that area in downtown Frankfort that we can all be proud of. Right now, we don't have anything there, and we're losing money every day that we don't have an economic impact in that area. And downtown's hurting because of that. Our local restaurants are hurting, our businesses are hurting. We need that economic boom, and I think that will provide it once it's there.
Okay. We're at a time, again, talking about the ongoing economic crisis and working together to get things done. So with that in mind, do you think this is the time to revisit the issue of a merged government with city and county?
I think it's important that we look at city and county governments as providing services that are not duplicitous. For example, we have a parks department for the city and we have a parks department for the county. The parks department for the county deals with Lakeview Park, and the parks department for the city deals with Juniper Hills. Both of those amenities serve the entire population of Frankfort and Franklin County. It's the same people. So we are duplicating services by having two separate entities that are providing services for the city and for the county. What I'm not for, because I don't think there is enough support for it, is I don't think there's enough support for merged county and city government. What I do think there is support for is the merging of services of city and county. And I think the Parks Department is a good example. I would love to see, and part of my platform is I would love to see the creation of a merged Parks Department that will deal with all of our parks and recreation areas and all of our amenities that may be provided for the city of Frankfort with one group of employees handling all that. But in addition to that, I'd like to see a part of the Parks Department actually expand into an arts department as well. We have so many children who are involved in the arts in some way, whether it's music, education, art therapy, whatever it may be. And those children are missing out because we don't have something for them. And we don't have a thriving arts center here in downtown. And we don't have an arts center at all anymore now with the convention center gone. So what I would like to see is the expansion of the Parks Department to include an arts department that would be able to provide for not only the downtown concert series, but also other events for children that would cross all sorts of lines for children that may not necessarily be your baseball players or your basketball players, but that could benefit from a Parks Department that also utilizes the arts as well.
Absolutely. I think the arts are so important for our young people. It teaches so many different things to them. So I like that idea. How do you think the city can improve communications with the public, whether it's making it easy to report a pothole or publishing vital public health information like we're all looking for right now, or anything in between?
I think it's important that we have a resource that everyone has the ability to utilize. With the advent of social media, everyone is a phone call or a text message or a Facebook post away from being able to report an issue, whether it's a pothole or whether it's a junked car, whether it's a loose dog, whatever it may be. But we as the city need to figure out how to centralize all of those resources so that if somebody does have an issue, they know exactly where to go. And if there is a repository that an individual can go to, that the right individuals handle the issue once it comes up. So not only having the database or the ability to find the issue is important, but also getting it to the right department to make sure those individuals will address the issue. So, having a tip line is great, but if no one's checking the tip line, or if nobody is on a daily basis sending issues to the road department or to public safety, then we're not doing any good at that point. We need to build our communication within the city between staff and individuals who work for the city to make sure that once a request for services is brought up, that it's immediately dealt with if there is a service that we can provide. Now, there's sometimes you just can't provide a service that's going to make somebody happy. They want the moon to be delivered to them, and you can't do that. And a lot of times it's things that can be done. And, we need a street light fixed. We need a pothole fixed. We need dogs to be, kept from running it loose. Those things can be fixed. And we need to make sure that we have the right resources for folks in town that could answer those issues and questions for them.
Great. Another big project going on downtown is the 2nd Street Corridor. Mm-hmm. In 2016, Frankfort got that $8 million federal grant to reconstruct that area. Have you seen the plans? How do you feel about the planned improvements? And are there particular things that you like or things that you think should be changed?
Yeah, so I've seen the plan, and I think the issue with the Tiger Grant funding and the Second Street corridor is that since the initial draft of the plan was submitted, the request for the funds was submitted, Second Street has changed significantly since that time period. Does Second Street still need beautification and widening and bike paths and all of the important amenities, beautification? Absolutely. But we've lost a lot of things down there as well. We've lost Pickpack is no longer down there. We've lost the Frankfort Plant Board, which everyone came to, which was down on the corner. They're talking about reworking the fire station down there, the homeless shelter being moved. So you're talking about, and we've lost other businesses throughout that area. So the way Second Street looks now is significantly different than the way it looked when those funds were applied for. So would it be great to have that area beautified and nice? Yes, it would be fantastic if our goal is to bring new businesses into that area, because that's what we need. We need new businesses in that area to revitalize the area. If our goal is not to do that, then we're missing the whole point of the Tiger Grant. And we've got to make sure we keep our focus on bringing new businesses into that area, because right now Second Street is a ghost town on the weekends. There is nothing going on down there, and there's very few people down there. So it's important that we change the focus of that and make sure that economic development is still at the heart of our focus with regard to that Tiger Grant.
Okay. Our town has recently encountered problems with consistent recycling. What solutions do you propose for limiting the waste in our town that needs to be recycled or thrown away so we can avoid future problems?
So many years ago, the city decided they were going to undertake a recycling plan. And that was a decision that the city commission made at the time, that they were willing to invest the funds to recycle. And it was sold to the city and to the populace that not only would it save on our landfill area, but it would also save us financially over a long period of time by providing our recyclables to a different company that would recycle those for us. What we found is the economics has changed over the last 10 years, and it's not necessarily, it's not profitable at all for us to do that. Recycling costs quite a bit of money. What we need to do is figure out how to keep recycling, because that's important. It's important to be good stewards of our natural resources, but we need to figure out how to limit our costs with regard to recycling. That means that we have to find a recycler that can take the majority of all of our recyclable goods for a decent rate that not only saves our landfill, but also saves our financial capital so that we can recycle for longer and provide those services for a longer period. That means we got to go to Lexington, Louisville, Mount Sterling. We have to go to all the areas that there are recycling plants, and we have to look at what all the options are. Georgetown, Scott County is looking to open up their very own recycling center. Perhaps that's something we need to look at. Maybe we need to do it in-house and have our own recycling. There would be a major cost to that, but at the end of the day, not only would there be a savings, but there may be an economic return to us. So there's all sorts of things that we need to look at, but I'm open to looking at those ideas, because the way that it was sold to us 10, 12 years ago is not necessarily the way the economics of recycling works today. And especially with Lexington closing for a period of time and then us trying to use Louisville facilities, it's important that we watch our pocketbook while we're also providing the recycling services to the citizens of Frankfort, which is important.
Oh, absolutely. We're running a little short on time, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that might be a short answer.
Sure.
Do you support allowing chickens within city limits?
I do not. I think the only candidate that does not support chickens inside the city limits. And just real briefly, I believe there's a health and a noise concern. I think the reason for that ordinance is still valid today. And I think that if you want to raise chickens, there's 50% of the population lives in the county, and you have plenty of places you can raise chickens if you want to live in the county. And I think that would be fine.
Okay. Would you support regulations on food trucks?
I would support limited regulations on food trucks. I want everyone in Frankfort to be safe. I want our food to be safe. But what I don't want to do is have a government that prevents individuals from opening up business and providing services because we are so authoritarian. I want to make sure that our limitations are reasonable, that they deal with public safety, but beyond that, I want them to get out of the way. I want government to get out of the way and to allow people to have business.
Okay. Well, where do you stand on the bicycle ban at Leslie Morris Park?
I would vote to rescind the bicycle ban at Leslie Morris Park. I think that it is vitally important that we preserve the historic nature of our community, but there's 100 acres there, only 20 of which is the historic portion. We are missing the boat on what can be done at that area. That is a forgotten piece of land, and we have the ability to invite hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals to come visit Frankfort and Franklin County annually to visit this area by having these trails. And we're saying no to that. And that makes no sense to me from an economic standpoint. From a historical standpoint, my father's a history major. I can tell you I respect the history, but you can have a marriage of the two. You can respect the history and preserve the history while also allowing new means of visitation and tourism for those areas. And I think limiting bicycles at that area is just a no-brainer for me. I would rescind that, and I'm very much against them doing the easement that would be a permanent decision for that park.
Okay. Some of the candidates have not been responding to the questions sent by the State Journal. If that includes you, why have you not taken this opportunity to make your views and ideas known to a wider audience?
Well, actually, I've answered every question.
Okay.
I think I may be one of the only people that has done that. I feel it's important to answer the questions, even as mundane or as obvious as they may seem. I think it's important that people know where you stand on issues, and I may not even know where I stand, but I need to find out where I would stand if that became an issue that I needed to be voted on, and people need to know where I stand when it comes to those issues. So I felt it was important that every time there is one of those questions that I respond to it. And just before this interview, I did question number 17 and sent it back in. So I make sure that every week that I get it back, and Jordan and I email back and forth to make sure that she's gotten my information. I think it's vitally important to have that talk with the general public about what your thoughts are on issues.
Great. Well, now it's your time to look into your camera, wherever it is, and talk to our voters directly and tell them why you're the best candidate for city commission and ask for their vote.
8 years ago, I ran for mayor, and my goal was to bring change and a bright future to Frankfort. We have been able to do so many things over the last few years that have been positive for Frankfort, but we've had a lot of negatives, and those negatives have affected our economic impact as a city in central Kentucky. We now have to make dire decisions regarding the financial crisis that we're facing as a city. Our city is not growing. Our city is not moving forward. So we need to change the direction that our city is going. To do so, we need to have leadership that is able to make sound financial and fiscally responsible decisions that will bring in new business and new individuals as citizens to our community. To do that, we have to provide amenities, we have to provide arts, we have to provide things that people want in their daily lives. And without those amenities, people will not move to our great town. It doesn't matter how wonderful our history is. So I'm asking for your vote because I want to be that candidate that moves the city forward, because I love this city so very much and I want to see it prosper and do well in the future.
Well, that's great. So if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
I have a Facebook page. You can go to my Facebook page, Kyle Thompson for Commissioner. You can find me on there. It has my entire platform, and it has my email address and my phone number. You can reach me any way you want to. And if anybody wants any political campaign information, signs, whatever else, just drop us a note and we'll be happy to get it out to you.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I appreciate you taking the time today, and I know our viewers appreciate hearing from you as well.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, let me say, voting's different this year. So be sure to go online and go to govoteky.com to request your ballot and get up to date on the voting process. Because this year it's different, so it's time. It's election season, people, so let's get informed and let's go voice your choice anytime between now and June 23rd. And that's all we have for this edition of Meet the Candidates, so we'll see you next time.